All right, today we're with Ben, who's in New Orleans, and Ben is actually a friend of Wendy and Mikey's, who helped us start this podcast way back when. And Ben was actually one of the first people we ever interviewed. It's Wendy had interviewed him about him starting scavenging, and I will link to that on the blog. But hey, Ben, thanks for being here today.
Hey Jay, how's it going? Good to talk to you.
Yep.
Thanks for having me.
So, I mean, one reason why we're having you here today is because we actually met you in person recently when Ryan and I were working in it's New Orleans. It was kind of a last a minute kind of thing, and it really worked out well.
Yeah, that was a blast. I
Yeah.
had so much fun hanging out with y'all.
So, I wanted to actually first start off on the story of how we kind of met as recently, and let you kind of take it from there, and then I got a bunch of other questions. So, we were kind of
Sure.
going back and forth. It didn't seem like maybe we were going to meet. Maybe we were. And you finally said, I'll come and pick you up at 7:30 in the morning and we'll go scavenging. And Ryan and I were like, we're kind of on vacation. Do we want to wake up that early? We were like, yeah, it's like, it's New Orleans. Let's go scavenging. So you pull up, we hop in, and you had a whole list of places to go to, which is great. I mean, I didn't have to do any work. And one of the first places we went to was like a yard sale. There was a couple in their 60s, 50s who were going to move out of town, so they were selling everything in their house. And it was the kind of house where mainly it was all glassware, like all this
Right.
just kind of grandma. It's glassware, the thing that really no one really wants anymore, that I can tell.
Right.
But you immediately saw in the corner a pair of shoes and you jumped right on them. So I don't know, why don't you take it from there, that adventure?
Yeah, I sure did jump right on them. That ended up being pretty eventful. So they were this ridiculous pair of stiletto, black patent leather, studded Christian Louboutins that looked amazing.
Right.
Like they had never been worn.
And anyone that doesn't know that brand, I mean, this is like super high-end, fancy shoes.
Right, and they had no business being there,
Right.
but there they were, and I had sold a pair of Louboutins once before, and I looked at them, and I was like, yeah, these are legit. I asked the guy how much he wanted for them, and we made a deal right then, and
he kind of had a story that kind of it made sense. He said he had a daughter who went to New York and bought them for like
yeah, story checked out, right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, $100.
Yeah, so I was willing to go with that, and so that was kind of the beginning of our adventure that day, and it ended up, of course, that they were not real.
Yeah, I mean, and I remember at breakfast time we were all on our phones doing searches, right. And if those are real, they were worth like $3,500. It was very exciting, and
Right.
But if you were smart, you actually contacted some kind of authentication company.
Yeah, I found an authentication company online because immediately after I had posted them, I started getting some, messages saying, "Oh, those are fake," and I had totally expected that, but they definitely started raising some doubts in my mind. So I figured, why not? I found this authentication company that specializes in brands like Louboutin and Chanel and Louis Vuitton, and so I just sent them the pictures that I had pretty much already taken and said, "Hey, check these out," and they got back to me within 48 hours, and they said, "No, those are definitely not real."
How much did they? How much did that service cost you?
That was $20.
Okay, yeah. So it's worth $20. And I mean, I think that's that's why I'm not an expert at that stuff. I mean, it really felt real. It's like it's amazing how these fakes are getting good.
Oh, I mean, I studied those for hours, and looking at all the logo and all the little minutia, and it's just like, if these are fake, these are amazing.
Yeah. And and I guess that is just a lesson in scavenging. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and like what I always say, it is good to kind of see an item in context. That
Hmm.
the item was kind of in a weird context, so it kind of makes sense it was fake. It might not have been. I think it was worth a shot, but those kind of shoes are always good to buy if it's in like a home of a woman who's just surrounded by wealth.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a lot more comfortable making a purchase like that at a wealthy estate sale where I don't really have to think twice
Yeah.
or question it. But, sometimes
Yeah.
it's worth the risk.
I mean,
take the gamble.
yeah.
It doesn't always work out, but more often than not, if you're smart about it, it will.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and it was exciting for me because, I get really shy about that kind of stuff. Is I just don't know enough about like the really high end kind of it's clothing and shoes, and it was really exciting to see it you willing to take a chance and try it out. And we've definitely dug into piles in like the dirtiest kind of houses and pulled out treasures. So it's always possible.
sure. You never know.
That's what it's made the it's morning, an exciting one.
Yeah, it got off with a bang. It started off with a bang, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I just let it go. I've got too much other stuff to list. I mean, I couldn't afford to really just worry about it.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you again, because I think Wendy did a good job in talking to you. I guess it's been about 3 years ago, and that's when you were just kind of starting out. It sounded like, is that right? 3 years ago.
Yeah, I was pretty green at that point.
Yeah. So, if you have a lot of time under at your belt and, us hanging out it's with you and we even went to at your house and we were packing at the same time. I mean, you're a pro at this point. And we got to hear it's your story. And what was interesting to me is, you're, currently a single guy but you've built an independent life with these multiple streams of income. It's not just eBay, but other things as well. So I just wanted to kind of break all that down. If that's all right.
Yeah. It's definitely a lifestyle that has evolved, and eBay has fit perfectly into just this overall vision of what you guys always talk about is having control over your time and being able to have the freedom to have a fairly flexible schedule and get to do things you want to do, when you want to do them.
And yeah, and when we were talking about all this, it was interesting to hear how some people they're working a job and they dream of, well, I want to have it's my time, but sometimes I feel like even if they had it, they aren't sure what they're going to do with that time. But
right.
It's you for sure already have like you're enjoying it and you already have like plans, and that's what's exciting to me.
Yeah, for sure. I always try to stay focused on the big picture and just see how everything fits into place in that overall scheme of things. So, eBay really works seamlessly in that regard.
Okay, so let's
yeah.
The first thing that hit me when we were talking about your story was you dropped out of high school. And I bring that up because, normally, like, that's a really bad thing. You're like, oh my God, you dropped out of high school. I have to confess, I don't even think I could say it was a dream of mine because I didn't even think it would be possible for me to do that. But I really wished, in some ways, I had dropped out of high school because I did not enjoy it. And it was interesting to hear that, it wasn't, or I'll let you tell us, it didn't sound like a negative experience. You then went on to do other things, got experience. You worked at a store that taught you about business. And so anyway, I just wanted you to kind of share how that started for you.
Sure, yeah. Well, it was pretty easy decision at the time. I really felt like high school had worn on me, and I had no interest in it, and so I dropped out and
just real quick, like, what was that moment like? Like, it's a Friday and you're just like, hey, Mom and Dad, I'm out of here. Like, this isn't working.
I think it was just like gradually I stopped going to class, and and it was I was just losing interest. Yeah, and then at a certain point, a couple of months into my junior year, I decided, no, this is the time. I'm just going to, I think it was like Thanksgiving vacation, and I was like, I'm not going back.
And so, and you're like 16, right?
Yeah, 16.
And I think that's interesting because there's a lot of people who I think hear us who have kids now and they homeschool, and it's almost like, yeah, either drop out of high school and do it your own thing, or have parents who are cool enough to, homeschool you. So
Yeah, and it was definitely a point of contention, but they saw that I was serious about, going out and being independent and getting a job, and actually like moved out of the house at 16. And
wow.
Had an apartment with some buddies, and it was definitely an adventurous time. But then I landed a job at a guitar store that specialized in vintage music equipment, and so that was like a dream come true. And even though I was only making minimum wage, I was learning a lot, just about how to run a business, all aspects of the business, from acquiring inventory, knowing the value of things, and then making sure you have enough room to make a profit, and what's desirable, and then from that point, balancing the books and learning the art of the deal.
No, real quick. I mean, just so people are very clear here. When you were telling me this story, you were working for a guy who would go overseas to buy items. I think you said he had a girlfriend overseas too, and so he was leaving his store to a 16-year-old kid. That's incredible,
Yeah, I was like really the only employee, and he just figured I could handle it, I guess. And so I would make the deposits at the bank and just everything.
And people would come and people would come in and bring instruments, and you'd have to figure out if they were worth anything. There's like a pawn shop, or not a pawn shop, but
yeah, exactly. And I would like check in with him, tell him before I would make any significant purchase, but I would basically run the store while he was away, and that happened on a fairly regular basis.
When I was thinking about the things I wanted to talk to you about, you know what? I don't think anyone in my life ever told me I could start and run a business. All through school, now my parents. It's just so interesting. So that's why, like, that story is so cool, because I mean, what a great way to kind of start out, just having that kind of, it's responsibility, and just trying to see, like, it's all a numbers game, you just got to make more than it you spend, and that's how it works.
It was awesome. And I mean, back then it was, it was a different ball game. The internet had just started, and so you could and nobody really knew the value of the guitars that they had. So people would just walk in and bring stuff off the street. And you could look it up and be like, sure, I'll give you this much. And if they were happy with it.
Are we talking about like 95 or what?
Yeah, this was like 95, 96.
Yep.
96, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're the last generation to kind of, I mean, we are like that edge generation where, like, we remember when there was no internet, and then we remember when there was, so interesting.
Yeah, well, it definitely laid a good foundation for me, just understanding, just giving me some kind of business sense, I think.
Yeah. And then you eventually, you graduated from high school, and then you went to college, right? After.
Yeah. So a few years later, down the road, I did end up going to college and getting my college degree. And at that point, I was just delivering pizza, and while I was in college, and then it believe it or not, paid much better than working at the guitar store for minimum wage.
Yeah.
And then Hurricane Katrina hit down here.
Right.
And that changed a lot, but at that point, I'd already purchased my first house, and then my focus shifted to renovating houses down here after the storm.
Now, did you buy it's your first house? It's before that storm hit?
Yeah, so about a year before.
Wow.
I had bought my first house and had, renovated it, and then basically right when I had finished doing the work, that's when the storm came, and then so had to renovate it a second time, and by the end of the second go round, I felt like, oh, I kind of know how to do this. Maybe I'll go try to flip a house.
Right. Now we'll get into the real estate part of your story, but I do find it interesting. When Ryan and I were there, we stayed in it's by a water neighborhood, and it is just, I really had no idea. I mean, we were just staying in an Airbnb someone owned. I guess in the outside world we would call it it's duplex, but I guess in New Orleans they call it a
double.
A double, yeah. Right? So
a shotgun double.
Right. So there's like two apartments in one house, right. And it was like we were in Brooklyn.
Right.
It was like the coolest, hippest, just almost entirely just young people and bars and coffee shops and restaurants. It's incredible. And houses are incredibly expensive now. I would say $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 easy, right? I mean,
easy. Yeah, New Orleans is really blowing up.
Right.
And a lot of people are moving here, and so many neighborhoods are just seeing an incredible makeover, and Bywater being a prime example for sure.
And I guess you were lucky to have been there and kind of, I don't know, did you know what was going to happen? Where you were buying houses for what, like $30,000 or something? Is that right?
Yeah, the house I'm in now, I bought for $35,000, and I always thought that New Orleans, I always thought that New Orleans was going to be a cool place. It was a cool place.
Right. Bet on your home, right? Bet on your home.
Right. And I mean, and more specifically, like when I was buying, I believed in this little neighborhood that was really run down and kind of hidden a little bit off the beaten path where everybody was buying, and that's why I was able to buy in pretty cheap.
Right.
And so I was betting on that neighborhood coming up. I was like, I really believe in this neighborhood. It's going to transform. And sure enough, it did, along with the rest of the city. But I don't think anybody would have predicted like what's happening now with New Orleans.
Right. Well,
yeah.
I mean, that's why I always tell people, find a place that you really love to be in, and then just invest in that area. And just, the hope is that other people will see the same thing,
Yeah, exactly. If you see the potential, then other people obviously will as well.
Right. Because, I mean, that's how any place becomes cool and prosperous, is because people just start investing, I mean, like, you can't wait for other people. You got to do it yourself.
Yeah, you do it yourself, and then in a way you're inviting that investment to follow you.
Right. Okay, so let's break down it's a story here. So you have 3 streams of income that I understand. So you have eBay, scavenging, you have like a part-time gig, and then you have your real estate. So let's talk about your what? You want to talk about the part-time gig first?
Yeah. So after I had done the work on renovating houses, I ended up getting into the healing arts, and I got a license as a massage therapist. And so really for the last 7 years, that's been my main gig. It's been really steady. And at this point, I split my time between a private practice and also working at a spa. And I would say that right now I probably work that job about 15 to 18 hours a week.
Got it. And so it's like, what is it, like Swedish? It's massage, or I don't really know how that works.
I mean, I do a bunch of different modalities for sure. And people come to see me for, various things. I work a lot with people who are athletic and do sports type massage.
Yep. So it's like a steady, it's client base. It's for the most part.
Yeah, that's what I love about it is having something that's just really dependable.
See, I think that's cool because we talk about on our blog and the podcast about eBay can be a part of a whole picture, and that's true. It's for us too. Like eBay is a pretty big part of our income and life, but we still do other kinds of work as well, and so it doesn't have to be one or the other. It's just we always say the part-time gig just needs to make sure there's plenty of time to be scavenging and listing. It seems like you've been able to find that balance.
Yeah, right. For instance, I don't work weekends
on purpose. Right.
That's when I'm out scavenging, and I only work in the afternoons, and so that gives me mornings to do any kind of packing or anything like that.
Yard sales.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a dream setup at this point.
Now, as far as scavenging goes, I remember when you first talking to Wendy, it seems like estate sales was your thing, and it still seems like that's true today. Does that feel like that's right?
Yeah, I would say at least 90% estate sales.
Right. And, it's interesting. In different parts of the regions of America, there are different kinds of things. Like in our area, there's very few estate sales. I would say almost none. But it's all auctions. So it's interesting. Why do you think estate sales are so popular in it's New Orleans? Old homes or what?
Yeah, I think that there's old homes and like for instance this past weekend I was just at one around my house that had housed 4 generations of this particular family. Yeah, I think that for whatever reason that's just the style down here. I'm not sure because I don't have a lot to compare it to.
Sure. Now, so yeah. even though it's New Orleans got hit hard by that flood and a lot of homes got demolished along with everything in it, there's still plenty of old money and old stuff in these houses to be sold.
Yeah, there's definitely, still enough areas that weren't flooded where there's still plenty of great, old, unique, interesting stuff, and just people that live in New Orleans tend to lead kind of interesting lives and have eclectic tastes.
Yeah, like art, and I can remember that one story that you told us about when you were starting, and you went to an estate sale, and I guess the guy played it's music or something, and you found all these reeds, it's musical reeds that turned out really well.
Yeah, he was a professional saxophone player and toured with some pretty famous people, and there were reeds and there were mouthpieces and a huge collection of those, and that was definitely my first experience of having a major score that it was just completely made my summer. And I was
I mean, like how much, let's talk to him about how much it would cost me.
Yeah, I think that I paid $600 and for that collection, and sold all the pieces individually for over $6,000.
I mean, come on, Ben. I don't know. I still kind of balk at putting that kind of money down even now. That's incredible. But I guess that goes back to that job in high school where you're buying musical instruments, so you already understood that it was worth something.
It goes back to that I knew that there was some inherent value there, and I just, I think I just have a gambler's mentality. I like taking risk.
Right. Yeah, I definitely noticed that when we were out scavenging and we were hitting some estate sales. You were definitely into not being afraid to pay for items that you knew you could flip for more. And that's interesting because so many people that start out, us included, I'm very conservative, like I don't want to pay more than $1. I'm willing to, pay $1, make, $25 that felt good to me, and it's just now I'm starting to be interested in paying, $100 so I can make 1,000.
Yeah, to me, I mean, it just seems like such a safe bet the vast majority of the time. And the times when it doesn't work out, you don't even lose money most of the time. You might not make as much
Right.
as you thought, but you're not going to lose money.
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. Now,
So,
how far are you willing to go to an estate sale or a yard sale? Like, how far outside of New
I
Orleans?
typically will only stay within the city, and the metropolitan area typically won't require me to drive more than half an hour to get to a sale in the outskirts.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some people hearing this who live in different parts of America who don't have as many sales as it sounds like as you're talking about. But so there are sales every single weekend. Is that right?
Every single weekend, for sure, and definitely, can sometimes dry up where you're going to sales and they're not that great, and you're coming home with some junky items.
Right. Didn't you say that there was kind of like a cycle where it seems like everyone kind of dumps everything in the spring and summertime, and then the winter is quieter? Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. It seems like there's definitely a cycle that takes place around all the major events that happen in the city. So, for instance, nobody's having like big sales during Mardi Gras or Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
So all these sales seem to get packed in between weekends like that, and so I do think there is some kind of cycle. And summer just gets so brutally hot down here that everything just slows down. So yeah, there is something to that. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Right. Now, let's talk about this. So, if you're going out, if you got a cool car, you fill it with a bunch of stuff and you bring it home, what's your process of putting it online? Is there a process?
Yeah, there is a process. I mean, I think it changes depending on what else I have going on, but typically I like to go out on the weekends in the morning, get a haul, and then do a little work on it the rest of the weekend. Try to get some stuff up, and then throughout the week, maybe I'll do a little bit more listing. So that's my process. But then shipping and more scavenging.
Right. But so why don't we just hold on to? So, are you trying to get everything up the same week that it's bought? I mean, does that happen?
No, rarely.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
No. I mean, I definitely get piles accumulating, and so it's up for me. I feel like it's all about like striking while the iron is hot, like getting in that mode, going, listing, and then trying to build up the inventory, and then slacking off for a while and trying to just maintain a certain level of inventory. So it depends, but I would say like at least 1 week in a month, I go really hardcore at listing.
See, I think that's interesting, and I know it's different for everyone that sells on eBay, because I think we're like what you just said, where we'll get into these spurts, into these modes where we work full time, we're just putting things online, and then we'll take off for a while. I mean, like we just got through taking off almost 3 months of not doing a lot on eBay, like packing and shipping stuff, but really not putting up a lot on eBay. And that's why we love eBay, because things keeps, we can do all that work up front and then just enjoy the money that comes out of it.
Absolutely. And I think there's like an inherent burnout factor.
Yes.
That comes along with this work. And so I just try to really honor that when I get to a point where it's starting to really wear on me, or it starts to seem like a drag, that I know it's just time to step away and just like chill out, do something else, enjoy it. The pipeline's there. It's going to be fine.
Ben, you're driving me crazy, because that is exactly, I mean, I just want to crystallize what you just said, because that's
Yeah.
exactly the way we approach it. Is that it's, burnout is always right there, and if you don't be careful, we could just end it all. Be like, I'm just sick of this. I don't want to do this anymore. So you have to always stop before you hit that point, and then come back to it. And I know there's some people that seem to try and build these businesses where it's it's they're trying to build some kind of empire. It's a machine. It's just like more, 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 and that's cool if they can do that. Maybe they're making a lot of cash, but for us, it's just all about, I just need the money I need to live comfortably and peacefully and not burn out.
Yeah, more power to them.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish that I could just keep going, and I would have a much larger store, but
Right.
it's just not realistic for me. But it also holds true for me, like with other things, like with the massage work that I do. That's why eBay was such an important part of the equation for me, was that I didn't want to burn out doing that work either.
Right.
And I was finding that, I only had so much that I could energy that I could put in there without starting to feel the effects of burning out. And it makes me wonder, like, about our society and people that have to, work these jobs that require long hours and doing the same things. Like, I mean, I think we live in a society that just has to be so burnt out.
I mean, year after year after year,
Yeah, I guess, really that's just what I want to avoid in life.
I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. So we just sold a piece of furniture at weekend. It was a headboard that we had for 3 years, but it finally sold. Got a good price on it. And this couple, they drove here because we do a local pickup. They came from a couple hours away. And they're an older couple, maybe in their, not too old, early 60s. Both of them work for the government because we live near the Capitol, so a lot of government is workers. And the wife said that they just retired, so they get full pension. It's pretty sweet. If you can stick it out, it's a sweet deal. But she said the last 8 years of her working, she can't even remember. And I just remember, like, our mouths were like, and she wasn't joking, They would just talk about, they would wake up at 5 a.m, drive to work, try and get home before a rush hour. It's routine that they had. And I'm just like, they got a sweet pension, but I just don't know if it's worth it,
I feel like once you get a taste of this life where you don't have to be locked into that kind of lifestyle, that there's no going back.
Right. Yeah.
It's just so hard for me to imagine.
Yeah. But, I guess it's easy for us to say this because we're here, but there is that gap, there's that gap that you have to jump over first. That's very scary. And I think for you took that jump really early on. I think dropping out of high school is kind of, it's making that, it's leap to, I'm just going to live a life that, makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something that, I know a lot of people struggle with, like how, like, they have a dream, they know they want something more in life, but they're doing something that maybe they don't want to do, and they're trying to figure out how to make it work. And I guess it's just different for everybody.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I do want to be clear. I think education is important, and education's good, and it's just not, traditional education is not for everyone. And I just think of my high school and the college I went to, it's almost just like I was on autopilot, It was something that was expected, something I just did, and I just don't think I got a lot out of it. So I'm just glad to hear that there's other ways of doing it,
Yeah, for sure. And, I think it's about getting creative and finding your passion and just being willing to explore. And, sometimes I guess that takes sacrifices too, where where you have to work to set yourself up just to even be able to get to that place.
Yep. Let's stop talking about this esoteric nonsense. All right, let's talk about storing. So you live, on one side of a house that is your house, but it's not a big place. So you actually rent a storage unit, right, to hold everything?
Right. Yeah. So I have a storage unit that's about 5 minutes away from my house.
How much?
And I pay $160 a month for.
Yep.
So that's just factored into the cost of doing business.
It's big though. It's like 10 by 10, right? Is that right?
Yeah, it's 10 by 10, and there was just no way that I could possibly do without it at a certain point. I mean, I had inventory just literally bursting out of my closets, and and it was just like stored everywhere. I couldn't take it anymore.
And that's a bad quality of life when it's just all encroaching in on you,
Right. It definitely can feel a little suffocating.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to have the storage unit. I probably make 3 or 4 trips a week to that storage unit to retrieve inventory and bring the stuff that I've listed and processed and bring that out of the house into storage. And so it's really not a big deal at all. I'm so glad that I discovered that. It was definitely worth the investment.
So how does that work? Did you wake up and see that a 3 things sold, and you then go over there and pick them up and then bring them home and ship them from home? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. In the morning, I see what's sold, and I wait for rush hour traffic to die down, go over there and grab those things, and maybe do an exchange with whatever I've gotten listed, and put those in, grab the things that I need to pack out of there, come back home, pack them up, ship them out.
Now, what's interesting to me is you live in in an urban area. I mean, it's a city. You cannot put stuff out on the front porch and have them picked up, because they would get picked up by someone walking by, right?
No, I actually do put them out on the porch.
You do? I thought you drove them to that post office.
No, we just went to the post office that one day because I think that we had missed the post. The carrier had already come, so.
So are you always home though when the packages are out, or are you comfortable with it driving away and they're just sitting there?
Yeah. I usually leave to go to work and leave the packages sitting there, and I'm pretty comfortable. I've only had one incident in the last 3 years with anything disappearing. So I feel pretty safe. The neighbors keep an eye out. They all know. Yep. That I have stuff going out.
Well, so then the other question I have is, a lot of people who on a blog who talk about being in an urban area, they talk about like the postman or the post person doesn't want to pick up all these packages. I mean, how does its mail person deal with a stack of boxes? Do they make an extra trip or what?
No, they don't. They don't make an extra trip unless they did not pick them up, and I have to call the postmaster, and then they have to come back out and pick them up. But it just depends. They're always switching the carrier on this route. Usually, they just come and they deliver the mail, and then come back and pick everything up from the porch and bring it to the truck.
So we've had some people come on and they've been complaining about its mail person isn't the same one every week, so no one knows what to do. And we always say, now, if you put an official notice for them to come pick it up, right? So it's in their a system, is that right?
Yeah, I always schedule the night before online.
Right. And then if something goes wrong, you call the postmaster, right? I mean, so there's a system.
Yeah, there's a system, and it works relatively well. I mean, especially when I can get some continuity in who's coming out on this route, then they know for sure that if there's packages on the porch, just grab them.
Right.
And even if like I forgot to request a pickup online. But yeah, it's just a good practice, I think, to just go. It takes 1 minute to schedule that pickup, and then you have a confirmation number, and if there is any problem, you can call and say, look, here's my scheduled pickup confirmation. Can you come grab it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then the other question I had was something that's been coming up recently, too, is with how you handle at your store and keep things going. Are you a listed and it's forget it guy? Are you like ending and starting a listings to try and bump them up? Are you doing a lot of sales? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I definitely try to list it and forget it. I'm willing to put stuff on sale. I'm always just tinkering, with things, but for the most part, yeah, I just put it up, list it. I monitor it. If it's getting, a lot of views but not a lot of watchers, then I'll think about lowering the price. I try to. I guess I have a pretty hands-on approach, even though I am just putting it on good till canceled,
right,
and buy it now.
Are you okay? So it's buy it now. There's no auctions. Did you do a best offer?
Yeah, I buy it now, and then I'll throw best offer on there. So yeah, just a combination of things in that strategy.
And what like average price do you think if you get for items? Are you trying to hit $100 and over? Is it more $20? Like,
well, I try to get $40 to $50 an item. That's where I need to be. For me to feel like the business is healthy and strong.
And how many items do you try and keep in at your store at any one time?
Right now, I'm at 750.
Okay. Is that about how it always is, or are you trying to always grow that?
For a while, I was more around 500 to 550, but I just finished a listing whirlwind and really bulked up the store. Hopefully I can just maintain that level now.
Yeah. And just so people get in this idea of what kind of store that you have, are you a buy anything kind of guy? Are you a specializing in things?
I am willing to buy just about anything as long as it has some kind of interest to me or I think that it's cool. I don't really specialize in any given thing, but there are definitely categories that I enjoy selling, in such as art and mid-century decor and things like that, vinyl records.
Yep. Yeah, it was cool being in at your apartment or house that you had a lot of artwork on walls, and it was all online, and I love that. Like put your inventory up and enjoy it, and then if someone gives you a good enough price, take it down and mail it away, and then put something else up there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all for sale. It's all for sale. Just give me the right offer.
Yeah. And this is what I love. I mean, we live in a rural area. Craigslist doesn't really work in our area, but you live in a place where you put things on it's Craigslist like a furniture, right? Like we actually went and picked up a pink toilet, like a vintage pink toilet that I think you're going to put on Craigslist.
Yeah, eventually. Right now it's like the death toilets just sitting out there. It's I really want to get more into that,
Yeah.
It seems like such a easy way to do a quick flip, not have to worry about, listing and packing, things like that. So I am going to try to get more and more into putting things up on Craigslist.
Right.
Bigger items too,
And then the last thing I just wanted to ask you about eBay is, what do your friends know about this part of your life or its clients? I mean, is this an open secret?
Yeah, I'm willing to pretty much tell anybody that's how I make a living, or a very important part of how I make a living. And so, yeah, I'm pretty open with people, and most people just really are not interested. They could care less.
Yep. Their eyes glaze over as soon as you start talking about it, and there's like,
I mean, maybe if I sold on like Etsy, then people would be, oh, that's cool. But
yeah, I hear you. Okay. Yeah, so it's the same experience, I think, for everybody. Just
Uh-huh.
and I think a lot of people, if I talk about it, even good friends of mine, they just don't believe it, or they think, oh, it's nice they sold a couple things, great. They just don't understand the scope of it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a long time ago, I had a friend that sold on eBay, and I would go over to her house, and she would have a bunch of packages going out. We'd bring them to the post office, and yeah, it really just seemed so foreign to me until I got into that world.
So, what is it that Wendy told you that flipped the switch for you?
Well, she told me that her and Mikey had started selling on eBay. They were making pretty good money. That they had some friends who were you and Ryan that had been doing it a while, made really good money, and so they say, yeah, you should think about it. And I was in a transitional period in my life, and I knew that I wanted to kind of cut back my hours doing massage work, and I just really had, a little bit of a open space there that I was willing to give it a shot. And it seemed like a perfectly fine idea to me.
Yep.
After my first month or two of just dabbling around and buying a little bit of junk here and there and selling some stuff out of my attic, I realized, hey, this is pretty cool. This is a pretty great way to make money.
So we've talked about two parts of your income. Now the third part is a rental income. And currently you own two houses?
I have two houses, two doubles.
And you have two houses, and these are houses that you bought relatively cheap, but you did have to put money into them because they were flooded. So it's not like they were dirt cheap because you did have to fix them up, right?
Yeah, I had to take out construction loans and then go into a conventional mortgage at much higher than what the original purchase price was.
Right. But it's still, overall, they're worth much more than what you bought them for and fixed them up for.
Yeah, at this point I have quite a bit of equity.
Wow, that's just like a good gamble on your part.
Yeah, I feel really good about it. It definitely gives me some options. I can at any point, cash out on one or both, or try to pay them off, or it definitely opens up the playbook a little bit.
So these houses, it's you have a home and part of it, and then it's you rent everything else, right? So these are a full-time people who live there.
Yeah, so that's 3 rental units total, and then the unit that's on the other side of me in this house, I'm actually getting ready to start the Airbnb business on that side and go ahead and give that a shot.
Now, that's what we were talking about a lot when we had met up, because obviously that's what we've done as well. What made you think you'll do Airbnb versus do the long-term rental?
Well, it's very popular.
Yeah.
It's very popular right now, and I've talked to a lot of people, and everybody seems to be doing really well with it. And then I realized too that I can furnish this place just already at the estate sales that I go to for a fraction of the price. So this seems like a really good investment on all ends.
Yeah, when we were at those estate sales, you were even talking about, okay, I'm buying this for the rental, and this I'm going to sell on eBay. You already had that worked out.
Yeah, so again, it just feels like a natural flow from this eBay business into that, expanding that, being able to source great stuff, having developed an appreciation of certain styles, and hopefully really be able to do it nice.
And, if you live in a place like it's New Orleans, it's basically a slam dunk. I mean, once you put that thing on the market on Airbnb, I bet you'll be rented 25 nights out of 30 nights, if not more,
I hope you're right.
Yeah. I mean, really, I just think it's just one of those things. I mean, I know where we stayed, she was booked all the time. And they had the same thing. They had, that 2 apartments. They lived in one, we stayed in the other, and it just sounded like they were always booked.
Yeah, and I think when you live in a place that's a destination like New Orleans, that there's all people are always coming in. We have very strong tourism,
Right.
so it just makes a lot of sense.
So how much do you rent that now, just full time per month?
Full time, $1,050.
Got it. Okay. So how much do you think you'll charge per night?
I'm gonna start at around $100 a night.
Yep. Okay. So if you were to rent even 20 nights, which I think would be very conservative, that's $2,000.
Right.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, that's great. I mean, like an extra $1,000 a month. That's pretty much my goal. And if it's less than that, then that's fine too. But I think in the end, I'll still be making more money.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we don't got to talk about like specific numbers, but like what percentage of your income comes from each thing? Like how big of a part is eBay versus the rental versus like massage?
Yeah, well, I think, it's funny because I don't even really consider like my rental income because it just goes to pay the mortgage, and
Okay.
I just basically live rent free.
Got
So
it,
I don't
got it.
even consider it income, but I would say between massage and eBay, it's about a 50-50 split.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So and I'm really comfortable with that. Sometimes it's a little less in one area, sometimes a little more, just depending on the cycles with retail and massage. So it in the end breaks down to about 50-50.
Yeah, and the great thing is with both of those, it sounds like you can build either one of them up at any time. Either take more clients or just list a bunch more. It's whatever feels right.
Yeah, I love that. I love being able to scale up or down and be able to just make ends meet in each month, just depending on the circumstances.
I mean, I cannot stress enough how much I love that flexibility. Versus before I started doing this, it was either like I got to get a job where they want me to come in full time or more, or I don't have a job. Like there's no on or off. There's no. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's on or off. It's not like halfway or not. And I just love the flexibility.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and then there are those times where you can just step away completely from one or the other. And like if I travel, then I put the store on vacation mode, and the income's still coming in.
Right now, now this is a perfect kind of a segue here because we kind of talked about that. So, unlike some people who might still not, they might love the dream of having their time, but then they think, well, I don't know what exactly I do with that time. I think if you've fully realized kind of what you want to do, and part of that is you want to travel and live somewhere else. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I definitely envision this lifestyle as being a springboard into travel, being able to spend significant amounts of time outside of the country. I really enjoy going to different places in South America, Brazil, and it's great because cost of living down there is much less than what it is here. So it's nice to be able to generate enough income and then go somewhere where that will go much further.
Right. So, it is true that especially if you have this as rental income as well, especially Airbnb, you could have it where it's New Orleans during the best times and then go away for 3 months, 6 months even, right? And still be okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm shooting for.
Wow.
Is to be able to come into New Orleans and be able to spend like 3 months in the spring, and then when it gets ungodly hot, take off and come back in the fall when it's really nice, and then do some more traveling in the winter months.
Now, in South America, is it the winter in our summertime?
That's right.
Oh, wow.
unless you're up in the Andes or the mountains somewhere,
Right.
it's always pretty warm down there.
Right. Cool. Yeah, and the cool thing is too is that you speak Spanish, which is very helpful, and I know they speak Portuguese in the other country, but you're kind of learning that as well, right?
Right. Yeah. They're very similar, and so it's an adventure that I really look forward to just delving deeper and deeper into, and hopefully one day maybe purchasing some land down there. And
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, have you researched, like, is it hard as a foreigner to own land?
Yeah, I guess it varies from country to country, but like for instance, Brazil's in a lot of turmoil right now,
Yep.
and one of the things that they were talking about was opening up the land to be able to be purchased from foreigners with this new government. So it just depends. It varies from country to country, but there are definitely ways you can invest with a group of people, and buy some land. I know a lot of people do it like that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I love the idea of, I'm at this point in my life. I mean, yes, I'm in the city, but I really enjoy being out of the city more than I enjoy being in the city. So I love how you and Ryan do it, how Mikey and Wendy do it. I really like the idea of having some place in a rural area.
yeah, I think that's really what works, especially for its finances. I mean, you really had a vision and probably had the idea to be able to buy a place cheap in an urban area. But in most cases, you just can't buy a home in an urban area that's affordable. So it really just makes sense for us to live outside. And then, our dream is kind of like yours, but the opposite. Live in a rural area, but then every spring or something go and live in an urban area for a while and enjoy the culture and restaurants, and then just come back.
Yeah, I mean it's so awesome. I mean, what a lifestyle.
It's almost like I feel, we've said this before. I feel like I'm breaking some kind of a rule or something. This is something I was not taught, that this was a life that was possible, or even if you want to have a life is like this.
Yeah, I do think in some way it's hacking the system. And just thinking way outside the box.
Yeah.
To be able to live like that and have the best of both worlds is really pretty incredible.
Okay, so I have two last kind of like topics I wanted to talk about. A lot of people that come to us or they email us and they're like, okay, I'm ready to do this full time, but and they talk about, but then things get complicated because when you have a job, they give you whatever your tax form. It's really easy to do taxes because they've taken all the taxes out. How do you do at your taxes? Have an accountant? How do you work that?
Yeah, no, I actually do all of my own taxes.
Really? Okay.
So, yeah. I do all of my own taxes. I feel like I'm okay at it. I've done it my whole life. So I feel pretty comfortable doing them.
Even with wait, real quick. So even having a multiple, it's real estate and expenses and all that stuff.
Yeah. So what I do is like for each business, I just fill out a different Schedule C form.
Yep.
And then for the real estate, I think it's Schedule E.
Yep.
Yeah. I just fill out a different. Each business has its own form and its own expense and profit. So yeah, I just do all the numbers myself, and it seems to work so far.
Are you using those online softwares like
I do use GoDaddy bookkeeping to track all of the transactions through PayPal.
Got it.
And anything that I'm spending related to the business.
Got it.
For sure. It makes it so much easier. I think I would just be guessing otherwise. I'm not really good with keeping all of that paperwork, so that makes it so much easier.
Now, did you also did you use GoDaddy bookkeeping for your other stuff too, for a real estate and your other
Yeah.
work? Yep.
Yep. It all goes through there, and then I can go in and categorize and separate everything into the different groups that it needs to be, and it makes it a breeze come tax time.
Now, when if you're actually, it's doing the numbers for tax time, are you actually using those online IRS services? I don't know the names of them. Like Intuit, or I don't know the names of them. Like
No. I'm literally
just
it's printing out the forms.
wow.
Like filling them in a PDF and printing them out myself. Yeah.
You are hardcore, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, it works pretty good.
Yeah.
I have an uncle who's a CPA. If I have any questions, I can always call him. So I guess, over the years, he's walked me through it enough where I feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Because, I worked jobs up until I was, late 20s, early 30s. And I remember I was just 1040 easy, that's the way I would do it. And so as soon as we started getting all these other businesses, and you start talking about Schedule C's, Schedule E's, I was like, forget it. Let's just get an accountant. I'll pay him a money. I don't have to worry about it. But good for you.
Yeah. I mean, I have no argument there either way.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely that's totally worth it too if you just hire an accountant.
Yep. Okay, the last question I had, or the topic was, and it's a little personal, and we can talk about this or not. So currently, you're single.
Right.
Do you, I don't know, like, how do you imagine you meeting a partner who is going to embrace this lifestyle that you have? Is that concerning to you, or is it just like, oh yeah, of course it'll happen? Or
yeah, I don't think about it too much, but I would love to meet somebody that has similar interest in, at least vintage clothing or something like that. But because it's not the only thing that I do, I don't really think about it. But I would love to have a partner to go out and scavenge with.
Yeah.
Get the estate sales with, and have some input into what's purchased. And
do you find that it's hard finding someone like that, or could you ever be with someone that had a full-time job and and did you have
sure if that's their thing, that's fine too. I have no issue of finding somebody that works a more traditional job, and that's how they want to do it. But ideally, I guess I would love a partner to be able to partake in this more flexible way of living, and being able to travel, and being able to have free time and not locked down. So I guess I guess in the end, that's not a deciding factor, but
Sure.
It would definitely be a bonus.
Yeah, no, it's for sure.
Sure.
What is that? Because, I guess I lucked into a thing where I had already met my partner, and then we got in it together, and it became an adventure. So that's one way of doing it. But, what is your process like when you're, going on a date or being with someone? Like, how does that conversation start? Like, do you just, like, jump right in? Like, yeah, I sell online, and I do this, and I do that.
Yeah, usually I'll just mention it in passing.
Yep.
And see what kind of reaction that it gets. But then
because like I wonder, because it seems like the first thing people ask is, what do you do for a living? And they expect, well, I have this job.
Right. Yeah, I try to spin it this way. I try to just say, yeah, I have I'm a massage therapist, and I own a couple of properties, and then I have a little vintage side business that I run.
There you go. Okay, I get it. Cool.
Yeah, and then if they're interested, we can go into details.
Yeah.
But I don't want to bore them.
Yeah.
Because,
I mean, what?
Because as you know, most people are just, you know, not into it.
Yeah.
But it would be great. I think you know, really, once you discover the how much fun it is. I mean, that's why you see like the same people at yard sales or flea markets or wherever you go. You know, it's just like there's always a crowd there. It's a scene. It's you know, it's fun. So
I love
I
it.
think once you get into it, you know, it's pretty easy to enjoy yourself doing this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my its birthday is just coming up, and for my birthday, I always say I want to go to like a really cool auction or a really cool estate sale. You know, like that's what's exciting. You know.
Right. It sounds like a blast.
Right. You know, go and make a day of it.
Yeah, that's, you know, I think, you know, that sounds like a great celebration, and hopefully you'll come back with some awesome score for your birthday.
Yeah, you know, so instead of like, you know, Ryan having to buy me something, I'm like, let's go buy stuff that we can sell, you know? That's more exciting.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I just want to say, you know, thanks to you and Ryan for, you know, still continuing to do this podcast every week. It's always a lot of fun to listen to, and always learn so much, and just feel connected. And it was great meeting you in person, and look forward to the next time y'all are down here. We'll get to go out and do some more scavenging. And oh, by the way, so how did you all like New Orleans? How was your trip?
So we loved it so much, especially the fact that we could stay in an Airbnb in like a neighborhood rather than downtown. Because if we actually stayed in a hotel downtown where we were working, and that was kind of horrible, you know, just like a downtown experience. But man, it was so great out there. So actually, that's now on our list of places that when we can do that, we want to go like in rent a place for a couple of months there and just hang out and scavenge and live and hang out with you, you know? Yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah. Look forward to it.
Yeah, we'll just have to make sure we're there when you aren't down in South America or something.
Yeah, just don't come during the summertime.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Ben, so thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you another time. Bye.
All right. Cheers, Jay. I enjoyed it. Good to talk to you.
See ya.